Hey everybody, I'm John and I'm part of the staff here at FCC. We wanted to take this time today just to have a conversation about some of the things that you might be thinking about at home, dealing with maybe isolation, some anxiety, or maybe even thoughts of depression. And so what we wanted to do was just take this moment and talk with our pastor of care and counseling, Dr. Scott Groom. Scott, how's it going?
It's going well.
Awesome. So we've had some conversations, our staff, with people in our church. We've been calling them up. We've also been getting a lot of feedback. And we're seeing a lot of similarities in some of the things that people are talking about. So we wanted to just start off with just addressing some of the things that people might be going through. And that first one is, what makes this time of mandatory social isolation so difficult?
Well, we've never experienced anything in this country that I know of on this scale.
Okay.
If you remember 9/11, it disrupted life for a little while, but it didn't shut down everything. We didn't have to lock ourselves into the house. We didn't have to make sure we didn't connect with people in a 6-foot distance or anything like that. Air travel was forever changed, and
Right.
that's not fun.
Right.
But this is something, a pandemic is not anything that I'm aware of that we've ever experienced. And in our country, we're not used to having our freedom of movement or anything like that limited to this scale.
Yeah.
We're good at isolating ourselves, spending some time alone, cutting off from people for a little bit. But in this case, we don't even know how long it's going to be.
Right.
Is it 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, even further out? So that sense of unknown is unsettling for a lot of folks.
Right.
But also, when it's an imposed isolation like this is, or staying at home, there's that sense that I'm losing control in my life.
Yeah.
And when that happens, a lot of things can go on in our own head. So the one thing I really want to clarify for people is it's important to remember that we've lost some control,
Yep.
but we haven't lost all control.
Okay.
There are still a lot of things that we can do in our daily lives that are reminiscent and consistent with what we already do.
Right.
But some things have definitely changed, but there are a lot of things that we can still do that brings us that peace and that calm and letting us know, okay, life has changed, but not so great that I don't recognize it.
Right. What would be an example of that where someone could grasp onto something or work in their continual rhythm of their day, even though it's now more isolated, to find that control?
Yeah, keeping a schedule of some sort.
Okay.
You might have to adjust it a little bit. Husbands and wives aren't used to working from home together, but creating a schedule that both of you agree to and that works well within the confined space of a home. Kids, keeping them on a schedule as much as possible.
Right.
Waking, going to bed, doing those things that are familiar, making dinner. It's a time to connect at
Yep.
this point.
Yep.
It's not something that has to be a battlefield at this moment because you're together and you want to make it as comfortable as possible.
So we are now, this is a new rhythm about being isolated at home. Some of that feeling of, some of that anxiety about isolation, is that a normal feeling to be having right now?
Yes.
So it's not something that overall we should be first concerned like, hey, I'm going off the deep end. No, this is just a natural step in someone trying to adjust to this new normal.
What you want to pay attention to is to what degree is the anxiety in your life. Is it so great that you're paralyzed by it? That's, something you need to address right away. But ultimately, if it's how am I going to deal with this? What's going to happen? How's my job? Those kinds of things. You can address those as they come up, but you still deal with them.
Okay.
I can feel anxious, but still do the things that I need to do throughout the day. Anxiety that paralyzes you, that's when you probably should reach out beyond home
Okay.
at this point.
Good. And we'll get into some of that
Yes.
in a little bit too.
We'll let you know
Okay. As we work
what's
through.
available to
Okay.
you.
So what are some of the mental barriers to break through during this time?
Probably the greatest barrier that I see is fear.
Okay.
Because there's fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of getting sick. I mean, I never thought I'd see this, but fear, is there going to be enough toilet paper?
Right. Right. Yes. And if you have any extra rolls, let us know, please.
Yes. So getting that sense of control back in your life allows for that fear to drop some.
Okay.
It doesn't completely go away, but the more you're able to do what you normally do, that fear is minimized. You start focusing on what you can do and not what you can't. And so let me give you an example of that. So if I were to ask you, what do you have control over, what would you say?
My time, I would say. Some of the things I eat. Also, the ability to get outside.
Sure. So yourself.
Right.
You have control of yourself.
Oh, yes. There you go. Yep.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with the Serenity Prayer?
No.
Okay. The Serenity Prayer was written by a pastor, theologian. His name is Reinhold Niebuhr.
Okay.
And it's actually a beautiful prayer. If you Google it, it'll come up. The whole prayer will come up. And I encourage everybody to read it and even print it out for a while. But most of us are familiar with the first 4 lines of the Serenity Prayer. It's, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Okay.
And what's important about that, 2 other aspects that are very difficult during this time is surrender and letting go. And within the Serenity Prayer, that first phrase requires surrender and it requires letting go. But there's also that part that I can still participate in, having the wisdom to know the difference about what I can control and what I cannot, and letting God have the rest, allowing God to be God.
Yep.
And I'll just be,
Yeah.
the human that I am. Okay, so focus on what you can do, especially in the moment, and that can help you relax. And learning to say that prayer and internalize it is extremely helpful. You might have seen it, stitched on grandma's pillow at one point in time, or seen it in a picture. But if anyone's ever been to a recovery meeting, that's where it's usually put into play the most.
Okay.
But try not to get too far out in front of what's happening in your life. If I live too far in the future, I try and anticipate too much. That's when I start feeling overwhelmed.
Okay.
Okay, so learning to deal with what is, back it off to right now, today. And you can break it down even into, if this day is too much, break it down into this hour. And if this hour is too much, break it down into the next 15 minutes.
Okay.
What can I do in the next 15 minutes that I have control over? It may seem very small, but it is very significant.
It's incremental steps.
So do something
Right.
that allows you to know, okay, I can choose to make this step.
Okay. So it's very important not to be projecting out so far with just the effects of the news and conversations, even stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
It could really, if you start really thinking what things are going to look like months from now, there are so many different variables going on. It could send you in a tailspin.
Yeah, and if we think everything we see on the internet is true,
Yeah.
oh,
it's
then
not?
we're
Wait,
real.
it's not?
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, darn it.
It is. It is not. So just check it out and talk with somebody.
Okay.
For sure.
All right, that's perfect.
Yeah.
How does social isolation create stress in our lives? Can you just talk about that? And probably because that's where a lot of people are with this social isolation, the anxiety of not being face to face. I feel sorry for our friends that are yellow in their temperaments. So can you talk about those barriers?
Sure. According to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, they have a lot of great information on their website.
Okay.
California.gov has a lot of great information as well. And then just anything else that you can uncover. But stress shows up in 5 different areas that I'm going to talk about. there are obviously more, but they generalize pretty well into our life. Fear and worry about our own health. With this virus, people are thinking, oh my gosh, do I have it? Any little cough, any little difficulty breathing, what's the first thought? We go right to that. It's like medical students, when they start learning about different diseases,
they think,
oh my gosh, I have this one, and I have this one, and I have this one.
Right.
And it's important to put it into context and to know there's probably more that's going on there, but stress heightens our awareness of it and what we pay attention to. So that fear factor tends to get amplified. The next one, change to our sleep and our eating patterns. If I'm under stress and I'm worried a lot or I'm depressed, if I'm depressed, I might be sleeping a lot of hours. If I'm anxious, I might not be sleeping at all. I might have insomnia. So getting a good night's sleep is important, but this impacts it. Our eating habits. I may eat well most of the time, but under stress, I might do what's called stress eating, and I might eat a lot of comfort foods. I love pizza, but it's not good for me to make that the primary source in my diet.
Right.
The next one is difficulty focusing and concentrating. Difficulty focusing and concentrating. Yeah,
I got it.
So anxiety and stress creates that difficulty where it's hard to pay attention, to focus, and to concentrate on one thing at a time. Have you ever been reading in a book and realized, I don't remember the last 3 or 4 sentences that I've read, because your mind is focused on other things. And so stress can do that. Okay. The next one is worsening of chronic health problems. So people that already have something going on in their lives under ongoing stress, that can make it worse. People that have high blood pressure, it can take it up even more. Even if you're on medication, it can still jack that up a little bit. And so anything like that. So pay attention to those things in your life. If there's anything that you need to monitor, continue to monitor those things, but might require a little bit more frequency on your part. And then also under stress, some people will increase their use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. It's immediate gratification for some, but the consequences to it can be long-term. And so we're going to talk about in just a minute things that you can do to actually maintain your mental and physical health during this time.
So then the use of overusing alcohol and drugs, what you're talking about, is going to only really make these situations even worse with the anxiety and the depression or how you
or
feel
whatever's going on in your life. Even if you think everything is fine, if you overuse something, it'll have a detrimental effect on your life. But under stress, sometimes we think, "Ooh, this is immediate. I just have a drink and it'll calm me down." But there are ongoing effects of that, and we know it only calms you down for a second. But the fallout to it can be far greater.
Gotcha. So then, what can we do to deal with the stress that comes at this time? Well, what are some practical ways that we can kind of look at this?
Sure. If anyone's been around me for more than 5 minutes, self-care is one of those things I talk about over and over. It's ongoing and it's essential to our well-being anyway, but in a time like this, it's imperative. Probably one of the first things I'd recommend is take a break from watching, reading, listening to anything that has to do with the virus. Too much information is still too much, and it's extremely stressful. I'm not saying not watch any news or not get any information, but if you're checking it multiple times a day or every day to a degree that you notice your stress going up, then back that off incrementally.
That's good.
And you'll notice that will go down. Have you ever been on vacation and not had access to news for a couple of weeks, and you get back and realize not much has changed?
Exactly.
In this circumstance, it's not a daily change that we're seeing, so separating from it for a time is probably good.
And that would include then even looking at your your mobile device.
Yes.
putting
Any
that to
social
the side,
media that
social
might
media.
create that stress, limit it.
Okay.
So focus on some things that you are more calm with, that allow you to relax, like reading God's Word. Whether it's reading it or listening to it, God's Word is always good at helping us to experience Him in the moment, but also calm our hearts.
Right.
Looking over the Beatitudes and the
Okay.
things that Jesus has said, but also the other New Testament writers. Even in the Old Testament, Proverbs, Psalms can be very comforting
Okay.
in a time like this. Listening to music is very soothing for people,
What's your
whether
type of
it's
music?
sacred or rock and roll,
Rock and roll?
that kind of thing.
Okay.
Watching movies, not heavy
Yeah.
movies, but comedies. We know laughter is good
Right.
medicine. So changing your focus in that sense, very
Okay.
good.
Okay.
So that's one thing to do. Next is take care of your body. Physical activity, even 30 minutes a day. Get your heart rate up for 30 minutes a day, go for a walk, whatever you like to do. The outcomes to our health are significant. And during this time, it's a lot easier to stay inside, kind of hold up
Yeah.
and not be as active as we can be. We still can go outside. We can still enjoy the sun and creation and know that God is still on the throne.
Right. Right.
And so let His creation speak to you and calm your heart. Next is get plenty of sleep and avoid using drugs or alcohol before bedtime. The reason is they may help you get to sleep, but they tend to interrupt your sleep. So
Okay.
you don't get into as deep of a sleep, and we wake up feeling more tired, more stressed, and not nearly as rested as we need.
Right.
And so sleep during this time is essential.
Okay.
Eating healthy, again, fruits, vegetables,
Yep.
drink plenty of fluids, stay hydrated, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Because we know food affects our mood and it affects our health. Like I said before, getting only junk food in
Yeah.
is not going to be good over the long haul. It may feel good in the moment,
Right.
but this we're looking at as a marathon, not a sprint,
Okay.
and we want to stay as healthy as we
Right.
can.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Next is make time to unwind. Do activities that you enjoy doing. Gardening. We were talking about walking. Read a book. If you like to organize stuff, organize stuff. Good
Right.
time to do projects around the house or in the yard.
Yep.
That kind of thing. But when I say make time to unwind and your mind just goes completely blank, it's like I have no idea what that looks like or means. There is an app for that.
Okay.
Apparently, there's an app for everything.
That's pretty cool.
But two of my favorite apps one is called Mood Tools.
Mood tools.
Mood Tools.
Okay.
So whatever mood you're feeling, but especially if you're thinking, I need something to kickstart how I'm feeling.
Okay.
Within the app, it has a lot of different suggestions that
nice.
you can do throughout the day. Videos that it will link you to on YouTube.
Oh wow.
For meditation, soothing sounds, like a river or the ocean,
Okay.
things like that, and also even TED Talks.
Oh, neat.
So motivational speakers, you get into those, and then as you know on YouTube, once you've watched that one video, over
Yeah,
to the right,
some
it shows you
suggestions.
all of the other things that are similar or like that in it, and you can pull those up and who knows what you're going to find.
Okay.
And the other one is called Calm. And it is for relaxation and being able to change up the way that we're thinking. If we're in a funk or we're anxious, it shows ways and helps you practice ways of breathing and bringing your blood pressure and that anxiety down, other things to look at and focus on. And those are just two.
Yeah.
If you go into Play Store on your phone and pull up Mood Tools or you pull up Calm, it'll show a bunch of other ones as well. So those are two that I like. I probably have 3 or 4 others that I have on my phone that I'll reference.
Okay.
But there are so many out there. Find one that works for you, that allows you to get the feedback that you're looking for, and some ideas.
Right.
Because most of us have a lot of good ideas, but under stress, we don't always retrieve them.
Okay.
We kind of get stuck.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about. Ways just to kind of get unstuck and move back into our lives in a way that is fulfilling and we're not feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, I like that term, unstuck.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure a lot of people are feeling that way right now. So that's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And the last one in this is probably the one I think is most important because it's a very biblical aspect of what we do is to connect with others.
Oh, yeah.
So talk with people that you trust, share with them your concerns, how you're feeling. Talking with others allows us to complete the one another's that we do as the church.
Right.
Encourage one another, pray for one another, support one another, encourage one another.
Right, right.
There are like 50 of them,
Right.
and I'm remembering just a few, but ultimately, when we have the ability to call on the phone, we have the ability to video chat with somebody, we can still stay connected with
Video
an app
conferencing.
like Zoom.
Yep.
You can get a bunch of your friends on a single call.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to just be isolation. You
Okay.
are able to still connect with other people. Even with a 6-foot distance, you and I are still engaging in a way that's meaningful and powerful and important.
Yep.
And that's what I'm encouraging everyone to do is continue those connections. Don't let them drop off.
Yeah. That's good. I've noticed even in my neighborhood, especially this weekend, a lot of people were out playing in the streets with their kids.
Yes.
Some people were just picking some fruit off their trees, but there was a lot of conversation. People kept distance, but yet they were still able to engage. And what I'm hearing you say is that's super important because it just helps build you up. You're feeling that personal connection, even if there is distance. It's what we crave as relational beings.
Absolutely.
So, that's very
my
cool.
neighborhood is the same way. People are out walking their dogs. Their kids are walking behind them as their kids ride around the block, and they do lap after lap. But that's great, because it's an opportunity to say hello, get to know some people that we might not normally have the time to stop and talk with.
Yeah.
And then we get ideas of how they're handling it and how we're handling it.
Yep.
And we speak into each other's life that way.
I think it does help too because it makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yes.
Like in that, and I even noticed when I've gone on walks, you walk by a stranger and people are very friendly at this time. Obviously I think everybody's in the same boat, so people are taking that extra step to wave, smile, and just give you a thumbs up. So that's cool. So what about for people that are listening and just watching this content? Hey, this is great, but I'm still struggling. Is there anyone at the church they could call to talk to if some of the things that you have suggested aren't helping?
Yes, without question. Call one of our counseling staff if you need to talk. Please do not try and navigate this all on your own. Two people that I highly respect and are part of my staff, Chris Rodriguez.
Okay.
And his number is 714-845-5365.
Okay.
And Amy McNerney, and her number is 714-845-5361. You call either one of them. They would love to talk with you. They would love to engage, talk about whatever is going on for you and help you navigate it at this time.
Okay.
So don't think that you have to do this alone, or the church has to open back up for anyone to get help through the counseling center, because we're still available through video and online. And so
that's fantastic.
Yeah, please call us because we have phones as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So one of the things that when we started off, I kind of skipped over is I didn't even really introduce you and a little bit about your background. So you've been sharing all of this, but could you just talk a little bit about what brought you into this, into ministry as well as, mental health and your passion for that? So can you just share with
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
I've been at the church since 1988,
All right.
and I've been on staff since 1996. We've had a counseling center here at the church since the mid 70s, and I was a part of that counseling center right around 1989. I was working with a mentor of mine, Dr. Ruth Purdy.
Okay.
And I was in my master's program at was then Pacific Christian College, now Hope International University, in marriage and family therapy.
Okay.
And so got my master's in marriage and family. That's what my license is
Okay.
Marriage and family. And then I went on and got my doctorate in psychology. And after I finished my pre- and postdoc work, Bruce at the time was our senior pastor, and the counseling center had closed down for a little bit, but he and the rest of the staff saw the valuable resource that the counseling center was, and how it benefited not only members of the church, but also our community.
Yeah.
Because we will see and work with anyone from anywhere. You don't have to be a member of First Christian Church. You just call us up, and we are happy to engage. But getting back to my background, I'm also an ordained pastor, and that was one of the things that I'm as proud of as anything is being able to let people know that the church has set me apart for this. I feel this is a calling of God on my life,
Right.
And I want to come alongside people in need when they're hurting, and so do Chris and Amy, and that is what we're here for. That's what God called us to do, and it is our privilege to do it for you.
Great. Well, Scott, I appreciate you. Thank you for today and just sharing with us your insights and wisdom. To everybody who's been watching, we encourage you to call those numbers. They're going to be up on the screen as well. And we also, really encourage you to stay connected through our content online, through the YouTube channels, through our social media platforms. Connect on the weekends during the services. The church is going to continue to look for innovative ways to stay engaged and connected with you. We hope you participate, and we just hope you have a great day. We'll see you again here on this here at FCC.